Welcome to 3 Count Commentaries. We talking about Monday Night Raw from January the 9th, 2023. So, of course, Vince McMahon has dominated the news segment. So, during this time, it slipped out, and then the commercial came up on Raw that they've announced the new slate of A&E shows, the new Legends and Rivals documentary series. So let's go through and talk about some of these before we get into Raw. How about that? You guys like these shows, right? At least I thought so. I think you do. Anyway, there's 6 Legends episodes that they've got planned. 1, The Iron Sheik. 2, Kane. 3, Dusty Rhodes. 4, China. 5, Jake the Snake Roberts. That's a very interesting one. And 6, the NWO, which is probably going to be just like the DX one that they did, which is going to be all about all 3 of the guys. But it's probably mostly going to be about Scott Hall, because I think he has the most interesting story. But Nash also has a very interesting wrestling story, having been bounced back and forth between WWF and WCW over the course of his career. So the NWO one might be surprising if they spend a lot of time on Scott Hall, which I think they should just go do Scott Hall rather than doing the NWO. Just do Scott Hall. I think matter of fact, I think they've already done it, right? But if they did a DVD for Scott Hall. I'm actually far more interested in his story being told than Nash's and Hogan's. We've already done Hogan, and Hogan's all over these things all the time anyway, so I don't really care. Jake the Snake Roberts. Now, this is an interesting one because there have been, of course, documentaries on Jake the Snake Roberts before, but I think he is still contracted to AEW. So him doing a WWE documentary series is very interesting. Of course, Jake Roberts has an absolutely fantastic story that is worth telling. If you are not familiar with the story of Jake the Snake Roberts, Pick Your Poison. It was one of the first WWE documentaries I ever purchased, and I'm telling you, I watch it at least once a year. The Dark Side of the Ring episode on Jake the Snake Roberts and his family is incredible. It's one of the actual good episodes of Dark Side of the Ring that's actually worth watching. It was very good. China, WWE producing a documentary on China ought to be interesting, considering how much of China's decline comes at the hands of Triple H and Stephanie. Now, I don't want to go into that. I've talked about China again and again on this channel because there have been other documentaries on China. There have been, Vice did a documentary on China that was actually pretty good, even though I hated everybody that was involved. It ended up being pretty good. So the question then becomes, how is WWE going to explain her leaving the company, why she left the company? Are they even going to mention Stephanie and Triple H? To what degree are they going to mention them? What kind of detail are they going to go into? Who knows? So the China documentary is certainly going to be one to keep your eye on when it comes to WWE rewriting history, propaganda, and some other stuff. And also, I wonder if they're going to talk about the porn. Because I know that was one of the things Triple H was always on, like, you could Google her name and there's a porn up there. It's like, well, yeah, it is. Unfortunately. But what are we going to do about that? Are we going to mention that? Are we not going to mention that? I don't know. Dusty Rhodes. This one has been in production for a while. They started talking about the Dusty Rhodes episode the moment Cody came back. I thought it was going to be on last season's Legends, but apparently it's going to be on this one. That's fine. Kane. This one ought to be interesting, but I think they told the Kane story in the Undertaker Legacy thing. Well, not the Legacy, but the Undertaker and Kane Rivals episode from the previous year. I felt like they already told Kane's story. So I'm guessing this is going to be about Glenn Jacobs and maybe his, jaunt through Smoky Mountain and his time as Isaac Yankem and, the fake Diesel. I think if but To a degree, I feel like we've already discussed this guy. And the last one is the Iron Sheik. Now, the Iron Sheik is a very interesting story because it's, of course, a story of an immigrant to the United States, and he had a life in Iran before he came to the United States that's actually worth looking into. There was a great documentary on the Iron Sheik several years ago that the guys who run his Twitter account are the ones who created the documentary on the Iron Sheik several years ago. It's absolutely fantastic. I did a review of it on the channel. So look into that. I also did reviews of the China documentary from Vice on the channel. And Jake Roberts documentary for Vice. Not Vice. Yeah, Vice, because it was Dark Side of the Ring. I didn't do Pick Your Poison though. But Pick Your Poison is just a tremendous WWE documentary that should be on the network. You can go watch it if you want. All right. So, despite the fact that Freddie Prinze Jr. has been very, very sort of nasty towards WWE in some ways lately, we'll talk about that at NXT, where he's just basically fire off the handle when it comes to NXT. But he's going to be hosting Rivals, and there's, I think, 5 or 6 new episodes of Rivals. Andre the Giant and Hulk Hogan, I feel like a story they've told 100 times over, because, you know, they've done the story of WrestleMania, and I don't know, like, unless they're going to talk about the stuff that happened outside of the WWE, like their rivalry in Montreal, then cool. If not, then what are we going to talk about here outside of, you know, Hogan making up more lies about how, you know, he's the first person to ever slam Andre and nobody's ever slammed Andre before, or he was worried Andre wasn't going to do business, or whatever kind of lies Hogan decides to tell. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Bret the Hitman Hart. That ought to be very interesting. That one should be fun. Undertaker versus Mankind, again, very interesting, should be fun. The Rock versus John Cena, very interesting, should be fun. Triple H versus Batista, interesting, should be fun. Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns. Now, this one could be fun, but is Brock Lesnar actually going to participate? Because we know that when they did the Kurt Angle one, they just used old stock footage of Brock Lesnar from like 2003, 2002, because Brock himself does not participate in these goddamn outside the ring activities. So is it going to be Roman sitting in a chair talking about Brock, and then Brock, I don't know, what will he? I don't think he's going to participate. So I'm not sure how this one's going to work. And the last one is Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels, which is, of course, just an opportunity to talk about Steve Austin and Shawn Michaels. I wouldn't consider these two to be the best or greatest rivals, but I'm guessing they're going to talk about their time as tag team champions before they, you know, when they feuded in June of '97, I think it was. But that was very short. That was a short time. That's when they both were feuding with the Hart Foundation, and they had that short-lived alliance. And I don't think that played too much into the Degeneration X part of the angle when Steve Austin was chasing for the title. I don't think that those two things really linked up too much. It just seems to me like they want to talk about WrestleMania 14 and Mike Tyson and all that kind of stuff. Okay, fine. So, what of this are you guys looking forward to? I know personally, I'm looking forward to the Austin and Hitman, Undertaker and Mankind. Even though I feel like they told the story of that Hell in a Cell match 100 times, I'm still kind of interested in that because they did have other matches. They had matches 2 years before that. You know, like they had that Hell in a Cell in what, 98. They was wrestling each other in 96. You know, so they can tell a great story with Undertaker and Mankind. The Rock and John Cena is going to be interested from a backstage perspective and from an on-screen perspective. I wonder how much CM Punk they're going to use. Triple H versus Batista, that should be fun because it's actually original, and you know, it's telling the story of a guy that they don't talk a lot about, which is Batista. That ought to be fun. So there's some good ones here. It's all about whether other people are going to be interested, and I'm very interested to see how this China thing goes. I really am. All right, so let's get into Birmingham, Alabama episode of Monday Night Raw. And I felt like a Bama for watching this show. But then again, the national championship game was like 52-7 at like the third quarter. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of people was like hoping WWE was doing something interesting on this show. And guess what? They didn't. Especially when they gave the last hour to a tag team turmoil match. Good Lord. They just threw in the goddamn towel. They announced nothing for this show and just threw everything at the wall. Triple H has coasted the entire month of December and now the early part of January. I mean, whatever. If Vince had done this, people would have lost their mind. Anyway, Kevin Owens starts Monday Night Raw, but he's immediately interrupted by JBL, who says nobody believes Kevin Owens can beat Roman Reigns, which I agree with. He says that the only person who has beaten Roman Reigns in the last 3 years by pinfall is the new wrestling god, his new protege, Baron Corbin, which is factually correct. Corbin called Kevin Owens a loser, which is also factually correct. Then said he's going to defeat Roman Reigns again in the main event of WrestleMania after winning the Royal Rumble. During this time, Kevin Owens put his head on the turnbuckle, which is he tends to do when he's ignoring people or frustrated or whatever. And I actually think that's probably the most interesting bit to Kevin Owens' character. Is it comes across as almost like, you know, if you've ever watched anime or something like that, sometimes characters kind of have a thing. Like if you ever watch Hunter x Hunter, like if Gon has to think too much, like he would sit and then a smoke would come out of his ears. Like that's kind of how, you know, Kevin Owens putting his head on the turnbuckle. You know, that's kind of what that is. It's like, I have to listen to somebody talk or, you know, whatever. I'm just going to do this thing. It's very interesting. I think people really enjoy it. It's over with me because I don't mind it. JBL asked him if he was in a food coma, which was hilarious because, you know, he's fat ass, that old Bubba Ray Owens, that old Bully Ray Owens, that old King Kong Owens, Kamala Owens, Bam Bam Owens, One Man Gang Owens, Tugboat Owens, Earthquake Owens, Shockmaster Owens. He's a fat boy. Anyway, Kevin Owens said that he was in a JBL and Baron Corbin are boring coma. And of course he wanted to fight. So Baron Corbin actually was wearing wrestling gear this time, which is, I think he's started wearing wrestling gear recently, but it seemed like it really was noticeable tonight. This match was boring. It sucked. Kevin Owens wins. Didn't care. Next thing I know, Jey Uso jumped out of the crowd, and then Jimmy jumped out of the crowd, and then Solo Sikoa came out of, I don't know where he came out of, and they all just proceeds to beat the crap out of Kevin Owens. Only for Kevin Owens to turn around and fight all three of them off with a steel chair. Man, let me tell you that I stood up and I was like, it's going to be that kind of night, is it? Where Kevin Owens is going to be able to chase off Kevin Owens Kingston, is going to be able to chase off the Usos and Solo Sikoa with only a steel chair. Man, he need a rocket launcher to get Solo Sikoa up out of here. And this is what we're doing now. Okie dokie. Whatever. Conspicuous by his absence was Sami Zayn. They were jumping on Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn was not there. And I liked that nobody mentioned that he wasn't there. You know, I don't think the announcers mentioned it. Kevin Owens didn't mention it. The Usos didn't mention it. Nobody mentioned it. They let the audience notice that Sami Zayn wasn't there. That was nice. So Adam Pearce confronted the Usos, told them about the tag team turmoil match that was that was made of their victims. So all the people that the Usos beat up were going to be in a turmoil match to see who's going to be the number one contenders. And then told Solo Sikoa he had to stick around because he had to fight one of his victims too, which of course being Dolph Ziggler, and that went the way you would think it went. And why? I mean, they gave Dolph a lot of offense, but there was some interesting stuff from the Dolph Ziggler part of the show. So Dolph was warming up, saying that he's focused on being the best and he's going to fight Solo Sikoa because he's focusing on revenge. At that point, Mustafa Ali literally slid onto the scene and was talking about how Adam Pearce had this bright idea to make Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali a tag team, But then Dolph Ziggler denied it and said, nah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. I want to fight Solo Sikoa instead. And Mustafa Ali's like, bro, you cost me the United States Championship like 2 weeks ago. Now you're costing me an opportunity at the tag team titles. What's your problem with me? And Dolph was like, look, man, it's nothing personal, but I want to fight the Samoan dude who jammed his thumb in my neck, you know? Everything ain't got to be about you, Mustafa. It ain't about you. But apparently, I would rather do anything than tag team with Mustafa Ali. If my name got pulled out of a hat, because apparently you used a hat or some type of tumbler in order to pick Dolph Ziggler and Mustafa Ali to be tag team, and they have zero in common except for being greasy and being losers and, you know, selling by falling on your head. They have nothing in common. Like, what on earth? Where did you get this from? In any event, Dolph Ziggler put up a pretty good fight, as Dolph Ziggler tends to do, but was defeated by Solo Sikoa via a pop-up Samoan spike. Okay. Oddly enough, Dolph Ziggler is at the point in his career where he hits his finisher and only gets a 2 count, and then people were not surprised. So he's at that point of his career. Now, this main event scene is chaotic because we got the debut of Vato Loco Dominic Mysterio. And what I wanted more than anything was Dominic Mysterio in an oversized flannel with the lokes and the bandana. That stole the show. He didn't even need to say anything. Just him coming out dressed like that stole the show. It became all about Dominic at that point. And he didn't need to do anything. Like, he didn't need to take any bumps. He didn't need to do a flying whoop-de-doo off the top rope. He didn't have to give himself a black eye or get stitches or nothing. All he did was be soft-ass Dominic Mysterio and show up dressed like a thug, and it was funny, and it won everybody over. Everybody is now captivated by Conan Mysterio here. It is tremendous. So the promo segment on Miz TV is hilarious. It is absolutely hilarious. So Dominic is talking about learning things he learned in prison. Number one thing he learned is to always roll with your crew. This is why, you know, the Judgment Day is on Miz TV with him. He then says that when the Miz asked him to share his experiences, Dominic responded that snitches get stitches. So he's not sharing his experiences. He then was told that this is a safe space. He's not in jail anymore. You know, it's okay. So then Dominic starts talking about being like, what do you know about being locked up with the world's most dangerous people? Not knowing when your next meal is coming from. I'm just looking at this fucking screen. Bruh, I haven't. This shit was fun. This was some fun stuff. So he starts talking about how he understands how Martha Stewart feels, and it's great television. It is absolutely fantastic. So the Miz decides he's going to blow up the spot. So he's talking about how Dominic was only locked up for a few hours and throwing shade on Dominic's gangsta. So at which the Judgment Day was offended. Like, what are you talking about? He's only in jail for a few hours. Dominic actually told a story. I forgot about this. That he told a story about smacking a dude in jail. I'm sorry, prison. Because the guy said he wanted to punch a hole in his face. So he hopped off the top bunk. Yeah, Dominic. He was on the top bunk. And he jumped up and slapped that guy awake. So the guy was asleep when he slapped him. The guy said he was going to punch Dominic in the face and then comfortably went to sleep. So Dominic windmill slapped him. That's gotta be hilarious, bro. That's some funny shit, right? It's a funny dude, man. Dominic rules. I'm sorry, he sucks, but he rules. It works somehow. It somehow just is fantastic that he's so bad. But him being so bad is actually what makes this work, because you know it's not in nowhere believable that Dominic Mysterio is in any way a tough guy. And people who are not understanding the character, which is even funnier, because they're like, he wasn't even in jail that long. They're like, dude, are you paying attention? That's literally what they're telling you, is that he is overreacting about that little bit of time he spent in jail. For starters, he's calling it prison. He's got a fucking teardrop tattoo on his face. It's ridiculous. He's even doing the prison pose, the prison kneel. Oh God, it's great, man. And you know what was even better? What makes it even better is that he's wearing the bandana over his face. So you know he's under there smiling, and he's wearing the lokes too. So you know he's in that bitch smiling, thinking this is ridiculous. And everybody else has to suffer and watch this shit with a straight face, while he can stand there and smile while doing the prison picture and shit. You know he grinning under that motherfucking bandana, man. You know he's having a blast. But when he takes it all off, of course, he has to be serious. He still can't cut a serious promo. It's not believable. But then again, it's not supposed to be. The fact that he's Dominic Mysterio and completely incompetent actually makes this work even more. That's the old Vince McMahon magic that used to work in WWE. Is you take somebody who's completely has no business doing whatever it is that they're doing and still find a way to make it work. I could argue a lot of wrestlers, you can go through our WWE history, probably had no business talking as much as they talked or wrestling as much as they wrestled, but through smoke and mirrors, it works. Sable. Jim Cornette is correct. What is Sable's personality? She didn't have one, but WWE created one and then supplanted it onto her, and she went on to make tons of money in the business. It happens. Sometimes you can have all the talent in the world, but you just don't have the right amount of incompetence, because sometimes being incompetent is useful. Dominic Mysterio is at that point where his incompetence actually helps the character far more than if he was actually a legitimate guy who spent a lot of time in jail and then came out and was a good wrestler. If he was like really MVP, this wouldn't work, because it would be too legitimate. The reason this shit works is because it's completely and totally illegitimate. It's complete and total unearned tough guy stuff from Dominic Mysterio. He does not deserve to be a tough guy. And yet, he continues to pretend to be tough, which is great. And I can only imagine what a competent commentary team, how good the Dominic Mysterio character would be. But Kevin Patrick is on the commentary. And let me tell you that Kevin Patrick is the shit's drizzling. It's just, he is not good. He is all of the not good. Corey Graves did his best, and Corey Graves did a great job of really putting Dominic over. But Kevin Patrick, as the Dominic's only been in jail for 32 minutes. Like, oh no, you're a lame with this goddamn accent. You suck. Also, Bronson Reed wasn't with Miz TV, wasn't on Miz TV, because he's not friends with the Miz. He's a hired gun, which is exactly what he should have been. And it took him 2 weeks for them to say that. I wish they had said it sooner. Whatever. Also, when you notice Thick Boy and you see that Byron Saxton is taller than he is, and then also the Miz is taller than Thick Boy, you realize that why Vince used to make these dudes spread their legs so that they can seem shorter, because you're kind of killing the Thick Boy mystique when he has to look up at the Miz. Then you're kind of like, yeah, maybe you're not so tough, Butterball. Maybe you're maybe you're just round, like maybe, you're just a little round. Anyway, let's move on to this turmoil thing. Judgment Day runs the gamut, defeating the OC, Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin, Alpha Academy, and the Street Profits. After the Alpha Academy match, Finn Balor was quote unquote injured, and he was injured by being splashed by Otis. Now he held Chad Gable in place so that Chad Gable could get splashed too. But since Finn Balor is sort of a cruiserweight, he had the body weight of both Chad Gable and Otis squash him at the same time. So it makes sense that they would do an injury angle. I think Finn probably oversold it. Like, you know, like he sold it like he was in a vice or something like that. But Adam Pearce allowed Judgment Day to make a swap. So Dominic Mysterio had to take the place of Finn Balor. So in classic heel fashion, Dominic only has to wrestle one match while Finn Balor wrestled 3. So the Street Profits and Judgment Day, man, they killed it. The Street Profits are 2 guys who are basically total packages. They both can cut promos. They both are crazy athletic. They both can have matches. It's just, it feels like the time for the team is over. Corey Graves was on commentary talking about Dominic showing prison grit. That was excellent. Rhea Ripley helps Dominic Mysterio on numerous occasions, of course. She pulled the leg of Montez Ford after he did a phenomenal 450 splash, which I think is the first time I've ever seen him do it. And he actually helped, Rhea actually helped Dominic get the pin via a roll-up. So Judgment Day will be fighting the Usos for the tag team championships. It's a heel versus heel program, which I don't know why you would do that. Unless you're counting on the crowd to like the Usos and, you know, for them to hate Judgment Day because, you know, it's Dominic. So why would you like Dominic? But what about people like me who find Dominic entertaining? You know, we might actually want that goofball to win something. Interesting to note, just an interesting note, that the Uso Penitentiary is not going to be doing a battle with Dom Novato. So is this going to end up being like prison culture where the Usos are yelling about welcome to the Uso Penitentiary, and then Dominic Mysterio is going to have to respond with some kind of Viva la Raza or whatever. That ought to be fun. As a match, this works. You know, I liked Damian Priest, and Dominic is fun. He's over. Finn Balor doesn't need to be in the tag team situation, so him being the workhorse and then passing the baton to Dom is fine for me. This is fine. I don't have a problem with none of this. I am thinking about what do we do with the Street Profits now. That is kind of my question, and I don't have the answer to it. But we know that these guys have tremendous amount of personality, and we see how especially Angelo Dawkins has improved so much in the ring. We're just waiting on it. And WWE transforming into a work rate promotion has not helped the Street Profits at all. You know, like the over-the-top character of the Street Profits that Vince had is what really got them over. You know, like of course they can do all the physical stuff. That's not, you know, that's not a surprise. But they need, if they're going to continue to lose like this, they need time to talk themselves back over. They need time to do fun stuff and be the Street Profits of old. Or we need to just separate them. I don't know. What do you guys think? All the other teams, I mean, who cares? I mean, I thought for a moment that Alpha Academy might not be on this show and that we break the run of Chad Gable being on every single episode of Monday Night Raw, but clearly it was not meant to be. It was destined for Chad Gable to be on the last 40 episodes of Monday Night Raw straight in matches with no storyline usually. It was just destined to be, you know. The Good Brothers being out there without AJ Styles was weird. Of course, nobody gave a shit about them. You know, I couldn't have cared less about them. If they were on fire, I probably wouldn't even notice, let alone put them out. So I can't tell you. And a bullet head, Carl Anderson, he's still a thing. Now back to the top of the show. Alexa Bliss decides she's going to cut her promo on top of the announce table. And I was like, okay, interesting aesthetic. Obviously, it was done for the purpose of what they were going to do later. But I think she came out of the crowd and jumped up on the table and explained that Bianca isn't in the building because Bianca is afraid of her because she is the real face of evil. Then she said that it feels good and she feels, better than she's felt in a long time because now she's finally taken control and that she has the whole world in her hands. And she plans to use those hands to put a beating on Bianca Belair and take the Raw Women's Championship. At this point, the video starts to play, an Uncle Howdy video starts to play where he's repeating, "Do you feel in charge?" Similar to Bane, of course, in the movie Dark Knight Rises. Then Uncle Howdy's music plays and he stands on the ramp. And of course, he's in complete shadow, so you can't really see him. But the idea is they're starting to drag Alexa Bliss into the Uncle Howdy story, which I figure was inevitable. Of course, it's inevitable. They've been teasing it for weeks now, that she was going to be involved with this in some way. So it wasn't really a surprise. Now, in terms of, is it the right thing to do? Look, I'm not interested in the magic. I'm just really not. If they can do this in a way that makes it interesting and not ridiculous, then okay. But if we're going to be doing teleportation, fireballs, and the rest of that stuff that they were doing before, they can shove this directly up their patootie. Let's put it like that. I'm not a fan of that garbage. All right? Let's not have her teleporting all over the place. But the stare down between Alexa Bliss and Uncle Howdy was interesting. Because now you've created this intrigue, like how is she tied to Uncle Howdy? What does Uncle Howdy know about her? Because clearly he knows a lot about Bray Wyatt, and we've seen him attack Bray Wyatt. Are we going to see him attack Alexa Bliss? Possible, I guess. So that was all fun. Now the talk about Uncle Howdy being Bo Dallas, who cares really? I don't think it matters that much. Having Bo Dallas on the roster just to put him in a mask is like, okay. I was never a guy, like, I liked the Bo Lever storyline because I thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. But it's not a main event story. It's not a main event character or a main event angle. So when it was on the main roster, it was still humorous and funny, but it's got a short shelf life too. So like, what are we going to do with this? I know everybody, thought it was going to be the second coming, but it was like, new. He was okay, but there are people who fit the role of what we're trying to do on the main roster a little bit better. Now, if he's going to be Uncle Howdy, I'm fine with that. I don't think they've ever acknowledged that Bo Dallas and Bray Wyatt are brothers on television, which is very interesting because there have been like ample opportunities for them to do so, and they've chosen not to. And I think it would mean a lot to both of them if they could be like a tag team, or if they could work together on screen in some way, even if it meant like having a match. Like maybe they've had matches before, but it would mean a lot to them, I think, if they could have like a match or a storyline or an angle or something like that. But Bo Dallas being Uncle Howdy is not something that I care that much about. And I know it's for some people to act like it's a giant bombshell that Bo Dallas is Uncle Howdy. If he is, so what? If he's not, great. I don't know. I don't think it matters that much, really. Until Uncle Howdy actually does something or exposes the reason why he's doing what he's doing, it really is no purpose to figuring out who he is or why he is. It's like, they'll tell us when they're ready to tell us, I guess. I'm not a big fan of that idea, but, that's the world we live in right now. All right, second match on the show. Bayley defeats Michin. This match was not good, and the crowd was dead. Michin has almost no fans. Bayley has been drowned out due to damage control. Bayley cut a promo saying that Becky is not there because she's jealous of the bond of damage control and that Becky is obsessed with her. Then she says that she gave damage control the night off so they can relax and watch her beat up Michin. And of course they cheated to get Bayley to win this match, which is fine. I don't get the love for Mia Yim. I just don't get it. She's she's media Yim. Okay, she's media Yim. Later, Bayley is with Kathy Kelly. Said she sent a message to Becky Lynch by defeating Michin, and a message to Michin about not minding her own business. At this point, Bayley starts getting into it with Mia Yim. Bayley says that Damage Control is the most dominant faction in WWE. Mia Yim gets in her face, says that she's a cheater and a fraud. Bayley and Damage Control proceeds to whoop that ass. Then Bayley gave her some parting advice by saying, "Don't stand up for people who won't show up for you," which I think is good advice. Typically it's pretty good advice. Pretty good advice. Mind your business. And if somebody's not going to show up to help you, you probably shouldn't show up to help them. Okie dokie. Michin was beat to shit and nobody did anything. So I'm guessing they're going to open the door for Michin to have some kind of help. And she's going to get a tag team partner out of this. That's fine. I guess. I'm not upset about that at all. They need tag teams in the women's division and in the men's division. They're both quite pathetic. The women's division is real bad when it comes to tag teams. And since Mia Yim is right there, I'm guessing she's going to end up being part of this whole thing. And maybe it will be Mia Yim and Becky Lynch as tag team partners. I don't know. Also, people are tripping over Michin being part of Mia Yim's name. Like, it's not a alternate name. It's like Bret the Hitman Hart or Macho Man Randy Savage. It's Michin Mia Yim. That's how they're doing it now. I don't I don't care. I'm just saying. I don't want anybody to be confused. All right, so Candice LeRae cuts a promo. We found out that Johnny Fragile hurt his little shoulder blade at a house show or something like that and won't be able to wrestle. I was like, praise God! Hate that you're hurt because you love to cuddle your little baby, but I don't have to watch you on TV, and I'll take it how I can get it. At that point, Candice LeRae starts talking about her dreams to win the Royal Rumble, and everybody dreamed of winning the Royal Rumble. And then, harsh reality in the way of Rhea Ripley shows up and says that Candice LeRae is delusional. She ain't winning the Royal Rumble. She ain't going nowhere near winning the Royal Rumble. And they debate over whether Candice LeRae has an opportunity or a chance at winning the Rumble. And before Candice LeRae made the dumb mistake of challenging Rhea Ripley, which she did, and loses via Riptide. Now, I'll talk about it at the end, but the German suplex off the second rope in this match was actually pretty good. When Rhea Ripley pressed Candice LeRae in the air and just kind of threw her up, that was a pretty good spot too. Otherwise, this match was just glorified squash match. So Ripley wins and there was nothing afterwards. Great. That's just fine. Austin Theory came out there, screamed that the champ is here, then said that he is the now, and said the now is forever. Like, then now forever, right? I caught that. I understood that reference. So he says that Seth Rollins' old trick knee couldn't hold up and he was outclassed, and that the young boy took Seth freaking Rollins to school. Then Seth Rollins interrupts while carrying crutches. He actually played air guitar on the crutches and clearly was not really all that injured. Austin Theory didn't think so either and said that, Seth Rollins is not 100%. Then he kind of garnered a little bit of I think I may have heard 2 or 3 people chant for MJF when Austin Theory said he's the pinnacle of this business and has surpassed Seth Rollins. Of course, he used the term pinnacle, so I expect that to be on Dynamite. This is the real pinnacle of the business or some shit. Whatever. Seth Rollins listened to Austin Theory talk about winning the Royal Rumble, To which I was like, oh, so now Austin Theory wants to fight Roman Reigns in a singles match, but only in the main event of WrestleMania when he had the fucking Money in the Bank briefcase. He could have done that shit whenever he wanted. They spent all that time trying to justify why he used the Money in the Bank on the United States title, and here he is talking about winning the Royal Rumble and challenging Roman Reigns for the belt. What? Like the same guys who weren't there when you cashed it in the first time are not still there now. What? Stupid. I hate this stupid shit. Anyway, Seth Rollins said that he's going to be 100% for the Rumble. Will also be 100% just in time to give Austin Theory his just desserts. At this point, Seth Rollins is leaving because Austin Theory just let him leave. Just stood there and watched him walk away. Not very heelish, but whatever. At this point, Lashley's music plays. He comes out there and proceeds to beat up Austin Theory. Then he leaves. They talk about later. He's with I think Byron Saxton, explaining that his suspension has been lifted. And I was like, suspension? I could have swore they said this man was fired. Now, I think they may have changed that on social media, so I'm not going to throw that in their face too much. But it wouldn't be nice if they actually put it on TV where other people could see it. But, well, maybe they didn't. I didn't pay attention. Anyway, last year was only suspended. He wasn't fired. So now he's been brought back. So he's backstage. He's in the locker room. And who shows up but MVP? Ooh, boy. MVP shows up. And he said he wants to talk business with Lashley. He asks Lashley for a thank you for helping him in the suspension sooner. Bobby Lashley musters up and I appreciate you. MVP talking about when he wants to mend fences and how he helped mend fences with Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin to get them into this tag team turmoil match. And he wants everybody to get along and understands that mistakes were made. But things can be made right. Things can be fixed. They can fix it. Bobby Lashley says he appreciates MVP's help and that they're good, but he cannot forget their history. And therefore, he's not interested in doing business with MVP. And I just, man, I'm already in. I'm already in, baby. Hurt Business is back, baby. I can't wait. It's only a matter of time now. It's only a matter of time. I like this. They saw that it was working, and they didn't need to let it ride. Now, the only problem is I don't know if Triple H's WWE is going to have the patience to let these guys get all swagged out and go out there and do what they were doing during the pandemic, because the Hurt Business was killing it back then. They're going to need time to cut promos mostly. Fuck all those matches. They need time to cut promos and really get over who they are and what they do. That's what we need. We need Hurt Business back. Triple H, I thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I understand that this version of the Hurt Business are probably going to be baby faces because MVP seems he's walking around without his glasses on. So he's trying to be earnest and honest and stuff like that. And Lashley is a baby face. Crowd was chanting for him and everything. He beat up Austin Theory. Seems to me like they might be going with babyface Hurt Business. Okay. Now, the story that was floated about that I saw, I forget who I saw it from, was that the Hurt Business was originally broken up because they wanted a solid heel stable to feud with Drew McIntyre, and people were liking the Hurt Business too much, and therefore they broke it up so that Drew could stay over as being the babyface of the angle. Okay, that's interesting. I don't know if I believe it fully, but it makes sense at least why they broke it up so soon. But the Hurt Business is going to be back, y'all. I'm 100% on board with this. I've been crying for this. I've been praying for it. I want it so bad. Yes. Yes. Ah. Yes. All right. Now, Austin Theory. I don't understand why Austin Theory can't have different opponents. I don't know why it's constantly Lashley, Rollins, Mustafa Ali. Lashley, Rollins, Mustafa Ali. Why can't it be somebody different? Like, you have tons of guys floating around Raw, literally not doing anything, you know? But I don't know. But Austin Theory, he comes across as being very good, but they're not really giving him the best material. He kind of repeats himself a lot. But I don't know. I like Austin Theory, though. I think he's the future, but he's in that weird stage where Cena was for a while, where they're not sure what direction to go. They like him. They want to give him time, but they're not sure what direction they want to go in with him. So he's kind of in a holding pattern where he's holding the U.S. belt because he got to talk about something. And talking about himself, he's not there yet. But he's got to do something. He's got to talk about something. So he's going to talk about being the U.S. champion. And it seems like with him screaming the champ is here into the microphone, that he might actually be John Cena's opponent for WrestleMania. So they need to figure out his personality and what his character is going to be before he gets to WrestleMania. Now, even if it's just going to be he's quote unquote the now, and Cena's going to be the past, okay, because that's going to be like a riff on, legend killer Randy Orton. That could be interesting, but only if they put the time and effort in, which they have proven that they're not willing to do on many occasions. They like to tease, like the Nikki Cross watching, Candice LeRae. They like to tease, but it becomes AEW the moment that, because for starters, it's Nikki Cross, watching fucking Candice LeRae from a distance. And I'm like, this, isn't all that interesting, but, it's all in the payoff. And I'm guessing it's going to pay off with the return of sanity. I don't know. I'm not the first person to think that. Other people think that too. That there's a version of sanity. Eric Young and probably Big Damo is going to return to WWE. They need tag teams for sure, but Eric Young, like Eric Young, really? Of all the guys, like, why him? Like, what's his special relationship with Triple H? They cover each other's bald spots. Like, what's going on? They're sharing Cialis? I'm like, what the fuck? Why would you hire that fucking guy? If you want to bring back sanity, should have brought back Wolf and Damo. I get it. Damo is actually literally married to Nikki Cross. Bringing her back in is fine. Okay. That's like they brought in Sarah Logan, who was legitimately married to one of the Viking Raiders. All right. You use the wife or the husband and bring in somebody else. Okay. But what's the long-term plan for them? Because too often, these guys just have no long-term plan. There's not even barely a short-term plan. Like, what was the plan for Hit Row, you think? I don't think there was a plan for Hit Row, if we're being honest. Is that it? Well, not really, because you have the Cody Rhodes vignette where Cody sat down and talked about his injury and the surgery, and Brandy Rhodes made her WWE return here in this vignette. So if you like Brandy, you got your Brandy fix this week. She found her way onto Raw. It was through a documentary style We Will Rebuild Him segment for Cody Rhodes, but she got on TV. She got there, goddammit. Brandy finds a way. She finds a way to get on TV. And there it is. Okay. Okie dokie. So Monday Night Raw, overall, despite the fact that the matches weren't all that great, there was a lot of seeds planted and a lot of other stuff going on. Sami Zayn not popping up to help out the bloodline is very interesting. The return of the Hurt Business, very interesting. They're still teasing sanity. That's interesting. Dominic Mysterio is the best thing on the show. Judgment Day versus the Usos. That's interesting. So there's a lot of stuff going on in this show that, is interesting. So I can't complain too much. Like, even though I hated that turmoil match was almost an hour, and I think they started it probably shortly after 10 and it went the entire hour. Like, that's very frustrating. That's incredibly frustrating. It's so stupid. You definitely could have done a one-night tournament rather than do that shit. You know? I don't understand why they don't do one-night tournaments. Like, oh, shit. You got to fill 3 hours anyway. You know, pull a Bellator. You know, promote a one-night tournament between the top, what was this, 4 tag teams on WWE. You only had 5 anyway. You had a turmoil match with only 5 fucking teams in it. So you could have just picked 4 of them and dropped 1, which means Cedric and Shelton probably could have got dropped, and just had a 4-team tournament, you know, and have promos in between and all that kind of stuff to make, you know, the show feel cohesive and make it feel good, rather than 1 hour of one match full of mid-carders. And then, of course, you know, Gangland alumni Dominic Mysterio, you know, D-Money, you know, D-Mist, or whatever. But Raw wasn't that bad this week. I wasn't a huge fan of it, but it wasn't as awful as it was in previous weeks. It actually moved a lot of things forward. It seems like Cody is the front runner to win the Royal Rumble, and there's no question about that. So they're not really doing a great job of teasing the Rumble, which is only like 2 or 3 weeks away. They're not doing a great job of making everybody look good going into it. So they're kind of basically giving it away the game that it's going to be Cody, which is the right decision. I mean, for fuck's sake. Now, the thing I was talking about earlier that I said that I missed is wrestling matches starting with collar and elbow tie up, and then you actually do basic wrestling storytelling. Like WWE, so many of their stories are the shows, the matches. And I noticed this during the Michin and Bayley match, where after Bayley says that she's better than Michin or whatever, you expected this to go in a classic wrestling way. Bayley would jabberjaw about how she's better than Michin. They would lock up, and then Michin would either go behind, drop toe hold, hip toss, arm drag, or whatever Bayley, and she would powder and then, you know, complain about, you know, Michin pulling the hair, pulling the tights, cheating or whatever, just to, you know, have Bayley set the standard that I'm better than her, and then to put the babyface over by having Michin out wrestle Bayley, at least in the beginning, and then the cheating starts. To me, that's basic storytelling in wrestling. But when everybody now starts matches with punches and kicks, like starting a match with a lockup and actually like exchanging wrestling holds, and then it kind of devolves into a fight, is like the old way of doing things, and to me, the appropriate way to do things. Now, these matches now are just punch and kick fests in WWE, and it's very silly that we're going that. Like, yeah, sometimes you wanna start a match with a kick to the gut, sure, but most matches should have like you start in a way that makes it seem like it's going to really be a wrestling match. You know, to me, that's like a lost art. You know, it's too many. Like, there's not enough headlock takeovers, and you know, there's not enough people doing things to capture your attention and then take you on a ride through the match. And I don't know why that match specifically, because I'm pretty sure every match on the show probably started some similar way with either a punch or a kick or a drop kick or whatever. And it didn't start with a collar and elbow tie up, you know, to see who's the best wrestler, and then have the babyface, you know, go over, only for the heel to cheat, only for the babyface to have to fire back up. And even if they get cheated again, they show fire and intensity and passion. That's all just very lost in modern wrestling. And I would hope Triple H's, you know, push for work rate would actually push for appropriate work rate, which is, you know, actual grappling of some sort. Even if it's just a phony go behinds with the drop toe hold and the front face lock that gets countered, and, you know, the Irish whip to the headlock that, you know, the heel has a difficult time getting out of. So they start pulling the hair or reaching for the ropes, and, you know, something like that. That's what I'm looking forward to. But that's not what we're getting. So it's unfortunate. Anyway, thank you guys for your time. Like, share, subscribe. I'll be around, y'all. Peace.